I'm so excited that these are the characters that we're putting in an arena together to death battle for the right to be homosexual on Maine.
Start your sublight engines. It's time for RuPalps Pod Race, a queer Star Wars and now pop culture podcast. As we said in the message we dropped on the feed and our socials, to follow the Palestinian BDS Disney Plus boycott. We're moving away from covering Star Wars Disney Plus shows for the time being and expanding to all kinds of media and pop culture we're interested in. This week, we have a very special competition episode to bring to you. So, welcome to the RuPalps Gaylympics.
Yes, it's a very millennial name. Claudia picked it for the Gaylympics. Everyone clap. I wanted to, if I may, I'm going to expand on the rules and then we're going to do all of our little intros. So basically, as of right now, the Olympics are happening while we're recording this, but it's probably not going to come out until later. So this is like post-Olympic Games. But in the spirit of competition, we're going to basically play a game where each host has brought a character from a piece of media who is not explicitly queer. And we are going to be answering questions and arguing why we think this character should have been queer and what we would have done were we at the helm. We are going to go through questions and everyone is going to vote each round on who they think had the best argument. And then at the end, we're going to decide who is the character who gets to be queer in the reboot. That's a joke. Anyway, that's the vibes. So that is what we're doing today. On to intros.
My name is Jess. My pronouns are they, them. My social media is Kawaii Jessio. And my gender this week is none of these people know that I was an undesirable child. And the character I am bringing is Goro Akechi, which any Persona 5 Goro Akechi fan would know that quote is so out of pocket where it pops up that it's really funny, even though it's supposed to be a serious moment.
I know nothing about Persona 5. I know nothing about Goro Akechi, but I'm so excited to learn.
I'm so excited to talk about him.
I will go on record as saying the only real knowledge I have of this gentleman is a meme that I sent to Jess like more than a year ago now. It's like, why do we have hands? It's like to hold Goro Akechi, to forfeit all mortal possessions to Goro Akechi.
Yeah, I love that Noah really liked that meme too.
It really speaks to me.
I'm pretty sure I was the one who actually had retweeted it and you saw it and you're like, this is so funny. I know nothing about this man.
I'm entertained. What can I say? I'm Noah. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me on social media pretty much anywhere at the Jewish Jedi. And my gender this week is hello, John. Apologies for the deception, but I'm not a heterosexual. And if it wasn't obvious from that, the character that I have brought today is Elias Bouchard of the Magnus Archives, the popular audio drama.
Okay, I need to come for Noah for a second because we all said we're going to do characters who are not canonically queer because as crazy as it is, Elias is not canonically queer. Noah texted me, do you think it would be okay if I did Tim Stoker?
I'm sorry, I forgot he's a boy
Bitch.
kisser. You know what? I'm sorry that I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of an audio drama. All right, I apologize. I failed my community, but I'm working to improve.
I knew one of you motherfuckers was gonna bring someone from the Magnus Archives. I just knew it in my soul.
I knew you were gonna bring Goro Akechi.
Elias Bouchard, what can I say about him? He probably wears a cunty earring. He knows how to lay pipe, if you know, you know. And aside from that, there's a lot to talk about.
Needless to say, there will be spoilers for the things we discussed today, so I'm mad spoilers.
Sorry, I just got tickled by the idea of getting upset about spoilers for the piece of media that I'm bringing. I'm so excited. Hi, my name is Melvin. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me on social media at Melvin Culpa. And my gender this week is mid-size Amy. I'm bringing Becca from Pitch Perfect. So
Mid-size Amy is crazy.
Holy shit. Guys, we watched Pitch Perfect before recording. I think it might be the best movie of all time.
I will say this for Pitch Perfect. It is oddly good for what it is. Like I do believe that. It has some moments that I think to this day are some like it's a really fucking funny movie. Like I can't say that, but I will say I learned earlier today that Mel was bringing Becca from Pitch Perfect. I was like, you're fucking crazy for that, but also you're absolutely right.
So, spoilers for Pitch Perfect. Watch yourselves.
My name is Ollie. I use any pronouns. You can find me on social media at Ollie Fresh. That's fresh with a PH. And my gender this week is, I think we're all gay. I am bringing Jade West from Victorious, so spoilers for Victorious.
I am fucking dead.
I feel like that's a bit of a dark horse, but I feel like many of you do not know my obsession with Victorious runs deep. You actually probably do know that. If you've listened to this podcast or follow me anywhere, you probably actually do know that. Anyway, I have facts.
Hi, my name is Claudia. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on social media at Kaludia Says, Kaludia Says. My gender this week is finding out Trump got shot through a Destiel meme, because that's right. Much like the U.S. women's gymnastics team, I come to the competition not to play, but to fucking win. I am bringing Dean Winchester today to the podcast. We cannot speak about characters who deserve to be gay without him being here. I had to bring him as a representative of the Mystery Spotcast, and I will be taking home the gold, trust and believe.
Can you take home the gold if you get impaled on a rusty exposed nail?
Guys, I was thinking about Dean Winchester today because I got a tetanus shot and I was like, could never be him.
I just want to say,
oh my God.
I wanted to bring the actual gold medal, which is Homotron 5000 Gojo Satoru. However, Ollie said no because that is a piece of media that isn't finished. So, and we're trying to bring things.
So there's still a chance.
There's still well,
a chance
if you know, there isn't really still a chance, but fine. So I decided to bring Homotron number 2, Dean Winchester.
I'm glad that you brought Dean
Yeah, I was
Winchester,
gonna
the man who
say-
was gorilla gripped tight and raised from perdition.
Oh my
I
God.
like her
No, I was
making my
gonna
argument for me.
I was gonna say spoilers for fucking JJK. Like, I don't even know if this is true because I haven't watched JJK or read JJK, but didn't that man fucking die?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big
doesn't
event.
that doesn't mean a lot for there's a lot going on.
Who doesn't die? JJK.
Yeah, and most of them a lot of them have come back except for the ones you want to come back.
Yeah.
Oh shit, wait. I'm gonna end up spoiling things for Persona 5/Persona 5 Royal. Charles, if you're listening to this, I know you haven't finished the game. Stop listening. Come back to this when you're done.
Charles, I also know you haven't finished Victorious, so come back when you've finished watching Victorious.
Charles, I know you probably watched Pitch Perfect, so you can listen to my part.
Hi, Charles.
Charles, you need to finish JJK 0.
Guys, this is welcome to RuPalps Charles Race. Anyway, go follow Charles. He is slay.
Oh, yeah, he's writing a book.
Yes, he is writing a book right
Yeah,
now.
I think his second one is
come-
coming out on the 6th.
it will
Yeah.
have been out.
It will
when,
be out when this probably comes out.
Yeah, so go check out Charles. Anyway, so I'm gonna be asking a couple questions, and we're gonna go around, and everyone will have their opportunity to answer on behalf of their character. I think the first round, so to speak, is just gonna be a brief introduction. So obviously this one won't be graded, but just of like who your character is, what their vibes are. And I think this will be like a canonically not like, oh, why you think they should be queer, but just like a here's who they are and here's what you need to know to understand them if you are not familiar with the media. And again, keep in mind there will be spoilers for everything that we talk about today.
So the character, as I've stated before in our intros, who I'm bringing is Goro Akechi from Persona 5/Persona 5 Royal, which, if you don't know what Persona 5 is, it is a video game, part of the Persona series, although they're like each standalone like games. So in the premise of Persona 5, you are a student in Japan who gets sent to Tokyo to live there because he got expelled from his last school for wrongful convictions of assault, where this man was like, oh, he pushed me over and like hurt me. Fuck this teenage boy. I'm going to ruin his life. Which you were just trying to save like a lady from getting hurt is what happened, because that man was going to assault that lady. So, but yeah, you end up in Tokyo and there's like weird shit happening. And you become a phantom thief who is like changing people's hearts by going into their cognition and basically like changing their minds about their misdeeds. Goro Akechi is a detective trying to track you down. So it is like the whole like phantom thief versus detective, like Arsene Lupin kind of plot point with the main character and Goro Akechi. But Goro Akechi, spoiler, does like join you later on, and is also has the same kind of powers as the main characters, because they do have fun little supernatural powers. Teehee. And also in a way, because you know he's technically your rival, like he's also an antagonist in the game, because all these motherfuckers do be like, yeah, ACAB, which is fair. There's just a lot of sexual tension between Goro Akechi and the main character, as is with any kind of detective like thief rival situation in these kind of stories. That's why I've brought him.
I have a clarifying question. So when you say going into their like cognition, is this almost like Inception, where they're like going into like, okay, not quite Inception, but like going into their actual like head, like into their consciousness?
It's like, yeah, kind of. There's this whole thing of like this other kind of world that like technically is like everyone's consciousness like is connected in it, and so like what the public, like main public, thinks is like affects that world too, because they're just like, oh, this is the general public's like opinion on something, so that could affect that world. And then they go like specifically like the bad characters in Persona 5, if you have like really fucked up desires, it develops like a palace in their like cognition, and they have to go in and change their hearts basically by like stealing the treasure, which is their like fucked up desire, out of them, and it makes them like change their mind and become better people, but not really. They're kind of just like, oh shit, I did a really bad thing, I'm sorry. And then they're like, well, I don't forgive you, so still fuck you, but also good on you for confessing, but also we did kind of force that out of you. There's a lot of nuance with Persona 5.
It sounds like there's a lot of metaphysics going on in Persona
discuss.
5.
Yeah.
The divas are consciousness maxing.
I'm so consciousness pilled.
Literally, like,
Shut up.
you guys don't understand. Okay, work. So as mentioned, the diva that I have brought to this event today is Elias Bouchard. But spoilers for the Magnus Archives, his actual name is Jonah Magnus. That's right, we've got two gay people in one gay person. It's sort of like a Matryoshka doll of horrible faggots. And sorry, I realize I can't say that word on here. Fuck.
No, you can say it. I think of anyone in this podcast, you can say it.
Okay. Anyway, so in the universe of the Magnus Archives, basically, Elias is running this place called the Magnus Institute, which is sort of dedicated to categorizing and cataloging like supernatural events as they happen. But secretly, he is the servant of an eldritch evil called the Eye, or the Beholding, which basically is like a manifestation of the human fear of being seen, watched, observed, etc., having your secrets exposed. So his like overall goal is to fuck up majorly this other little gay boy, Jonathan Sims, so bad that he can sort of become the linchpin to bring all eldritch terror into the world so that he can sort of become like a god king ruling over it. He's got a lot of weird vibes going on. He also has a weirdly erotic situationship going on with a sailor who we'll talk about later. I had thoughts about that. And yeah, I guess I brought him because he's just a diva. Like, I don't have any other word for this gentleman. Like, he is eccentric and constantly being like maniacal. He loves to monologue, which famously is a huge hobby of gay people. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll get into it, but he just is so gay that I had to bring him. So yeah, he also has a whole host of psychic powers, which again, very homosexual. If you're a man and you have psychic powers, I don't know how to tell you this. You are gay.
I was very excited when Noah said he was bringing a character from the Magnus archives, because it is something that like I know so much about, and I think that one of probably the ship that I've read the second most amount of fan fiction for the Magnus archives does involve this man, so I'm very excited to get into it.
It's really scary that you phrase it like that, because like my mind, I know the answer to the question because, you know, we're married and we talk about things, but my mind was like, are you talking about, are you reading a lot of John Elias fan fiction?
Who do you think I am? Who do you think?
I was making a joke. I'm sorry.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with you if you do read that. I just have questions. I'm just curious. Curious
I do want to point
minds.
out, just to put Mel on blast, that when I was talking about Elias, they did type in the chat, so no Tim Elias representation. Got it.
Oh, I can't wait, because I hope that you won't be mad at me for overstepping if I have to at any point share a nugget of history from what it was like being in the fandom when it was coming out.
Important context, ceded to experience.
I'm bringing Becca from Pitch Perfect, as you all remember. I wrote a little paragraph about Becca. Becca is an aspiring music producer whose professor father is forcing her to attend freshman year of college at Barden University. She goes on to join the Barden Bellas, the a cappella group on campus, who was disgraced at last year's regionals, or I guess nationals, at last year's competition, where the male counterpart to the Barden Bellas won nationals. So there's a rivalry there. Great. We love it. Becca has the craziest gay, insane vibes with this member of the Bellas named Chloe, who's like a junior, I guess. Holy Jesus Christ. Some of the gayest moments. If you were a young, questioning person in like 2012, which this is a beautiful period piece of, by the way, you probably watched one of the scenes in this film and started to think, two girls could kiss. I'm gonna jot that down. Anyways.
Yeah. Oh, Becca. What is there to say about her? I remember watching, there's a scene in that movie where Becca puts on like the Bella's like uniform, and she's like adjusting everything in the mirror. And I remember watching that as a young queer child and being like, well, not really a child, I was like a teenager at that point, but I was watching it. It was like, oh my God, something shifted. Something has changed.
I do like the power that I guess Becca from Pitch Perfect has over queer people, because I also watched this movie as a child, but the difference is I was like, she is so cool. I want to hang out with her. Like, we had, like, I remember watching the movie and being like, no, guys, like, she's right. We should listen to what she has to say about the Bella's set list.
It's just such a good movie. So my character, who I'm bringing, is Jade West herself, the original goth girlfriend. She is from a television show that was on Nickelodeon called Victorious. It was very contemporary to iCarly. It came out a couple years after iCarly started, but it takes place at this performing arts high school, and it follows Tori Vega, who is going to normal high school, her older sister, who's deeply untalented. That's what the show would have you believe, but I'm a Trina truther. Anyway, but Tori is the main character of this show, and she ends up coming to this performing arts high school that her sister was attending, and then she starts attending because she's a really good singer. And one of her rivals in this show is Jade. So Jade immediately is not a fan of Tori and has this almost one-sided rivalry with her. It's two-sided sometimes, but I think in the end, like, they are friends. But Jade has this boyfriend, Beck, and in the first, like, episode, Tori's kind of, like, flirting with Beck, and there's this kind of back and forth over all of that stuff. So, you know, it's just, like, a big messy moment. But there's a lot of scenes, basically anytime Beck is out of the picture, I'm like, there's some lesbicious, like, rivals to lovers situation going on here. And also, I just have to make a note, multiple occasions, Jade's favorite movie is referenced. In one episode, Kat Valentine, as played by Ariana Grande, a character whose favorite vice president is Dick Cheney and also does not believe in climate change. Just have to put that out there about Kat from Victorious and Sam and Kat. But Kat does get Jade for Christmas a pair of scissors that were used in Jade's favorite movie, The Scissoring. So I'm just going to let that sit, and that is referenced multiple times. You know, anyway, so that's kind of the thing. But Jade is just very standoffish. She's very mean. But deep down, I think it's, like, referenced quite a few times that she's just, like, deeply, deeply insecure in both her relationships and her ability to connect with people, which I think is a very common, like, queer experience. But anyway, that's the lowdown on Jade.
I just want to come on here to defend my homegirl Trina Vega from the haters and losers who constantly find themselves squirming in her comments, because you guys really hate to see a talented woman doing what she's good at. Could you produce a one-woman show named Chicago? That's what I fucking thought.
You're so right, though.
It was just called Chicago, just so you know.
I'd like to point out that as the one person here who was a Nickelodeon employee, I don't know any of this shit because I was too old when this show came out.
I will say that all the things that Ollie just mentioned outside of Trina Vega being canonically seen as a bad singer, which is false and defamatory because she's amazing and incredible, I had no idea about any of that. I had no idea that Jade's favorite movie was called The Scissoring. The only, like, victorious knowledge that I have in the back of my brain is this one clip from when Kat gets trapped in a mental asylum very briefly, and they do this, like, smash cut to it, and the words, like, mental hospital, like, flash up on the screen. And they cut to her, like, in a padded cell with big blocks on her hands. And I think about this all the time. That has nothing to do with Jade from Victorious, but it was like that's where my Victorious knowledge, like, starts and stops.
I have to also add one of my favorite scenes from Victorious is where that involves Jade, so it's relevant to my character. They basically have this, like, there's an episode, I believe it's in the last season, where they basically have, like, this television competition, like, trivia show, and they keep getting, like, when they get questions wrong, it's like the main cast is doing this, but they keep getting questions wrong, and, like, they get these, like, weirdly escalating bad punishments. So it's like Jade gets a question wrong and they're like, car battery, and they drop a car battery on her head. And I think about that often. If you guys don't know anything about Victorious, I definitely recommend watching Quentin Review's videos on it. It's really short. It's only, like, the first one's only 8 hours long.
I used to watch those videos. I used to watch those videos to try and educate myself about Victorious when I had to write polls about it on the Nick Rewind channel. So,
but the point is, it's also I believe it's no substitute for The Real Thing, which is a deeply, deeply mediocre Nickelodeon television show.
weird.
But Jade and deeply weird.
It's,
yes,
it's not
very
just
weird.
mediocre. It's fucked up and weird sometimes.
It is. Oh, says Claudia, who's never watched it. I mean, she's right. It is fucked up and weird. And fuck Dan Schneider for real. That being said, Jade did have an eyebrow piercing, and that was very exciting to me as a child. Anyway, I'm sorry I've taken up so much time.
So as I said, I'm coming for the gold this evening, and I brought Dean Winchester because you can't talk about gay people without talking about Dean Winchester. If you don't already know who Dean Winchester is, he is from the CW procedural television show Supernatural, a show which you should never watch, which me and Ollie created a whole podcast to recap. You can learn about it by listening to the Mystery Spotcast. But the premise is there are two brothers, Sam and Dean. They hunt demons and monsters every week. For 4 seasons, they played classic rock in their stupid fucking classic cars and go around being like, oh, I like women, and being very the picture of a typical American machismo, except for that they go so far in that direction that they whip around to just being gay. And if you've listened to the Mystery Spotcast, you would know that even before a certain character that everyone ships with Dean comes up, you would know that before even he shows up, there are a lot of very weird things that they put in the show. They make gay jokes about him that are weirdly homophobic, and there's a lot of storyline stuff that's like, this, all signs point to he doesn't know he's gay. And when I say it's queer coding, it's like putting the ship stuff aside. It is literally a case of people going, it can't be as gay as people say it is in all the Tumblr gifs that you've seen. And then you watch it and you're like, that's just how it was. Like, I cannot explain more than that. The biggest thing with Dean Winchester is that everything in his life revolves around his brother, Sam, until an angel comes along and grips him tight and raises him from perdition. That is a real fucking line that is said in the show. And you say to yourself, okay, but how gay can this man be? The angel is gay. The angel does tell him he loves him. He does not reciprocate. However, I will be making the argument today that he does. And in Spanish, he did. So in Spanish, it's canon. He said, I'm just saying. What else should they know about Dean Winchester in order to get into today? I mean, many of you already know a lot about him. But there are a lot of crazy things, like, this is a fact that a longtime Supernatural fan, I didn't know, that I found out recently from a TikTok. But I did look it up later. I didn't just believe TikTok. There is ancillary Supernatural material, a book that talks about Dean's first hunt for monsters that he went on by himself. So he was trained by his dad. His mother dies when he's young. He sees his mother dying, burning on a ceiling. And he saves his brother, and his dad decides to dedicate his life to a revenge mission. And John Winchester, his father, is the shittiest father of all time. Like, the shittiest father. And come to find out from this book that Dean Winchester's first hunt by himself was to get rid of 2 ghosts of 2 lesbian nuns. Which I didn't know before. And John Winchester says some weird shit in this book that you're like, oh, and why did you send him? And he says that it was a weirdly hard mission for him. And you're like, and why was it hard for him? And why was it hard for him? Anyway, that's just a fun fact. Dean Winchester doesn't just have another man that he hangs out with. He has a whole storyline of coming to terms with himself that people have identified with in ways unimaginable. And I will get into that later. What else is there to say about him? I don't know.
He's so silly. I think also one of the best jokes in all of Supernatural was Sam and Dean going to stay at this one motel, and they walk up to the counter and there's a kid working at the counter because his mom owns the motel, and Dean walks up and says, yeah, it's him and his brother, and he goes and says, yeah, we'll have 2 queens, like queen beds, and the kid goes, oh yeah, I'm sure.
I have to emphasize that happens all the time in Supernatural. That's not the only time that there's like a joke like that. Okay, I will get to it later.
What is the most like popular ship? Like, what is so I assume a lot of these characters, like, we bring them because they themselves feel queer, like via subtext or just vibes, or we just think the story would be better if they were. But what is the ship? What is the ideal pairing for this person in your mind?
As I stated before, it is the main character, Persona 5, and Goro Akechi, which their ship is called Shuake, the ake coming from Akechi, the shu coming from Shujinko, which means protagonist, or, you know, like... because Persona does have kind of like silent protagonist vibe, not even vibes. It's just straight up silent protagonist. You could like basically insert yourself onto the protagonist, even though they do kind of have their own personalities. So yeah. I'm just going to refer to the protagonist as Joker, which is his Phantom Thief nickname. So Joker and Akechi, as I said, are kind of like the whole detective versus thief rival thing going on. Spoilers for Persona 5 Royal specifically. There's a whole thing where this one character later on basically has thrown everyone into like what he thinks is like their desired world, because he wants everyone to be happy, basically, because of his own traumas with like dealing with something that happened to his partner, and she unfortunately, if I remember right, did she pass away? I don't know. Why am I asking you guys as if you fucking know? But yeah.
Wait, isn't he a teenager?
No, there's this other character who is an adult, like, counselor person.
Oh,
that's
okay,
how
sorry.
he learned, like, about, like, their, like, traumas and, like, what would make them happy, to make his, like, perfect little world. And spoiler, again, like I said, for Persona 5 Royal, Joker's perfect world included Akechi, because also a spoiler, Akechi died, technically. That's very... I think he didn't die. I might be in denial about that, though. And there was no body, so I'm going off that rule too, where I didn't see it happen, so I'm gonna pretend like he didn't maybe die, but like that's a debatable thing in the Persona fandom of whether he's actually dead or alive. And yeah, where all these other characters are like, oh, I get to be with, yeah, unfortunately a lot of them do have like a dead parent. They're like, yay, dead parent is now alive in this this universe and we're all happy. And you find out in this alternate reality that they somehow get stuck into, that the Akechi that is hanging out with you might be fake, because Akechi might actually be dead, and you realize Joker's perfect reality is having Akechi be with him. So I'm just like, if they aren't actually gay and in love, why did Joker want Akechi to be there?
I'm always saying that. Like, if I made an alternate reality fantasy world, I would have a man there. But that's not because I'm a homosexual. It's because I just don't like women.
Another thing about Joker and Akechi, because I need to say this, there's moments too where these two, because you have Joker has like what we call confidants in the games. In the previous games, they're called social links. So, like, you can befriend these characters. Canonically, in the first original Persona 5 game before the remake Persona 5 Royal came out, Akechi's was one of the only confidants that, like, ranked up by itself. So no matter what, at the end of the game, you had a max confidant with him. So max relationship with Akechi. Which I was just like, I don't think that is a coincidence that, like, all these other
Was it
characters
casual?
In Royal, though, you do have to, like, they did change it where it didn't just automatically level up his, like, relationship with you. But he does have moments throughout his little, like, confidant where it's just like, that's a little fruity, sir. Like, why are you, as another man, saying, like, oh, let's go to the bathhouse together. Oh, let me
The
tell you about my
bathhouse?
fucked up childhood while naked in the bathhouse. Oh, let's go to an aquarium together as two boys. Haha, tee. Hey, and there's times when, like, because the characters will text you and be like, oh, hey, I'm free to hang out right now. Fucking Akechi's, every time he texts you to, like, be like, oh, hey, let's hang out, it's like, I'm alone right now. Hey, girly pop.
What the fuck?
Whoa.
And then he
By the way,
invites you
I'm
to
alone,
a
by the way.
jazz invites you to a jazz club. He takes you to, like, little cafes, and, like, yeah, he's, like, kind of a famous detective, so he's just like, you have to be hot to hang out with me too.
Why?
So you have to have, like, really high charm to hang out with him at one point. But yeah, it was like,
Why was
"Sir."
the jazz cafe the most damning? Damning
No,
of
I
the
was-
locations.
I was literally okay, Claudia. I know you made a joke about casual earlier, but this is reminding me a lot of Chaperone's hits on coffee, where she said you just the jazz bar as a place to go.
That's crazy.
There's also
I'm just saying, is Goro Akechi a lesbian?
maybe there's a really popular, like, Twitter account called Shuake Lesbianism.
Good for them.
Joker also lives in the attic of a coffee shop, and Akechi, like, visits him sometimes there. I mean, they all visit him there because he lives there. But then there's one time when he's there when you get home from school, and then he's just like, you're back late, and you can respond, honey, I'm home. So I'm just like, I see what you are. You can't say that these two are straight boys when you're making them respond like that.
That's crazy boots.
God damn.
That last part is like a level of gay delusion that I had in middle school where it's like, oh my God, he came to visit me. And it's like, you live here. This is not a visit. This is your house. Anyway. So who should Elias Bouchard be dating? I hear you asking. It's a really important question. And the answer to that for me is this. I just want to preface this by saying, if you love old man yaoi, which is to say if you have taste, then I have the product for you, all right? Peter Lucas, who is a sea captain aligned with the Eldritch Abominable form of the lonely, which is the fear of being alone by yourself, lost forever, etc., is, by my count, someone who has divorced Elias Bouchard at least twice, I want to say, over the long amount of years. And I don't have any other way to describe their relationship than, like, recently divorced. They have such a weirdly homoerotic but adversarial relationship in every scene that they're in. And the funny part is, too, they kind of, like, take custody over different characters because, spoilers, but at one point, Peter Lucas is just running Elias's institute for him because Elias went to jail. Oops. And they're like, hey, Diva, who's that guy with the large beard in your office? And it's sort of like, that is my boss's ex-husband. They're in a fight because he went to jail, probably for murder, unclear. I don't know. I don't really have any, like, better way to describe them than that. It's like an old sea captain and this really annoying twink. What is Elias Bouchard? Let the chat decide.
I'd say a twunk.
I mean, I don't think that he has even an ounce of
I think
muscle
he's a
on him.
twink.
I feel like he is I think we may have said it in our Magnus Archives episode. I feel like he is a twink who you feel like should have experienced twink death by now, but somehow hasn't,
Yeah.
despite the fact that he's, like, in his mid to late
He is-
40s.
he's
Well, and
one of
that's
the,
part of the plot.
He's one of the twinks who, like, is in his 40s and will not let go of the label. And I think that he should date. I think he's dating that old man. and that he's dating that old man at the sea.
Definitely think, hasn't he also dated that whole man's, all of his ancestors? That Jonah Magnus has? Let's.
Not canonically, but I do think it's hilarious of your man leaning into you and being like, your grandfather was better.
And that's the and the problem is that Elias Bouchard would do that because he is what? Messy. And gay men are what? Messy. I rest my case. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's important to make the clarification that this ship, which I grew up calling Lonely Eyes, because that's what we called it in the Magnus Archives fandom. That's what we call it. On Tumblr back when it was super popular. The thing about them is that, like, they're not good for each other. Like, they are not in any way, shape, or form, but that's kind of why they're perfect for each other. Like, I read a fan fiction one time about them that was like, Peter likes being around Elias because Elias feels just like so lonely and nasty that it makes him feel like he gets like high off of it.
Their podcast,
Anyway.
Bill Ford. Also, shout out to the Book of Bill.
What the fuck?
No, because I have to
I can't believe you
I
just
have
said
to admit to something. I did almost say that same sentence, but I have restrained, and so I didn't.
Yes, Noah texted me about Bill Ford.
We don't have to talk
because
about that.
the Book of
I
Bill
didn't bring
came
that up.
out.
I don't know. I did not bring that up.
Somebody should have brought Bill Cipher.
I'm not bringing the Triangle Man into this good house.
I think Dean Winchester versus Bill Cipher would have been funny.
Why would they have to fight? Why don't they just kiss?
Can you kiss a triangle? More tonight at 11. Anyway.
More.
Well, if the triangle has a mouth and a wish.
Listen, all the casual edits of Bill Ford on my For You page would say otherwise.
Well, you want to know a ship that needs a good luck babe edit? Yeah, that's right. Becca and Chloe. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Actually, I'm of the volition that Becca has two hands, one for Jessie and one for Chloe. Jessie, for once again, if you have not seen the seminal classic Pitch Perfect 2012, this is going to be lost upon ye. But basically, Becca ends up with one of the troublemakers, the rival boy group, Jessie, in the end. But, like, her and Chloe have crazy, crazy gay vibes. Like I'm telling you, one of their first interactions, I believe it's their second interaction. Which, by the way, the first interaction was because Chloe was like, oh my gosh, Becca seems so cute. Let me ask her if she wants to be a Barton Bella. The second interaction? Oh, she's hearing her sing Titanium in the shower and is going to enter her shower stall, both of which they're both naked, showing full vag and tits. And it's like, oh my god, you should sing. You have such a pretty voice. Is she fucking a man at the same time? Like, not at the same time, but like she was fucking a dude earlier. Yes. Do I think she just has some, like, internalized homophobia? Some, like, just she needs to read the lesbian masterdoc? Yes. So I'm saying Becca and Chloe are... I think I've talked about this on the podcast, or maybe I haven't. Maybe I just talked about this to the RuPalps. The first lesbian fan fiction I ever read was Chloe and Becca.
Oh, so you've been ride or die for this for a while.
I didn't know
been day
that.
one. I've been locked in. The first fan fiction I read with the tag lemon was them. So jot that down.
Lemon is crazy. I do also want to, I mean, not to sort of shoot my own little gentleman in the foot here, but whomst among us can make the claim that this character has had a full tilt nude shower scene where they both sing. I mean, I can only report the facts.
I mean, Shiwake was close with hanging out in the bath.
Close.
Trauma dumping.
But
they didn't
there was
sing.
no singing, and
There
there
was
was
no
no
singing.
they were
Yeah.
not tits and vag out. So if we're going by in terms of like structural nudity and pitch, I feel
So
like
true.
unfortunately
Pitch Perfect?
Yeah, I mean, they were tits and dicks out, but
Okay, I feel like Jess is trying to like interfere with
I'm sorry.
interfering with the due process.
We're giving Canadian Olympic team right now.
Claudia, you're making references to things I'm not aware of.
You didn't hear about the Canadian Olympic team spying on the rest of the
Babes,
Yeah, with the drone.
You think I give a fuck about the Olympics?
Guys,
You think I give a fuck? That's crazy.
I just thought it might have crossed your path. I don't know. People have been joking about it.
No, the only thing I know about the Olympics currently is there's that guy who's really good at doing Rubik's cubes and spinning.
Pommel horse?
And also
Pommel horse
that-
guy.
Sure. And then also there was I'm trying to remember who it was. I don't think he was from, oh god, what's the really small country? Oh fuck. Oh no, that's Luxembourg.
Brunei?
Fuck. It was no, there was one guy from like
Liechtenstein?
Lithuania. Liechtenstein. Thank you. The one guy. And it just made me laugh because I was like, imagine being like, okay, cool. Also, I saw them swimming in the Seine and hearing about the E. coli in the Seine.
Oh no. Yeah, it's okay, Mel. I don't know anything about the Olympics either. I'm like surprised Claudia's like really into the Olympics.
I'm not. It just was putting it on my For You page.
there's also a scene that I was like, whoa, the lesbiciousness is off the charts, because we were watching Pitch Perfect together, where they're having like a party after like who is on what team gets announced. Like who is on what like acapella group, like who made it in gets announced. So there's this party with all of them and they're all a little bit tipsy, and Chloe like walks up to Becca and is like, I'm so happy you're here, and like comes up like super close into her personal space. And I was like, whoa.
No, she's trying to kiss up on her, and also I need to let it be known, lesbicious, that's a Fat Amy original. So jot that down.
Anyway, is it my turn? You may wonder, oh, are you going to talk about Jade and Kat? Because that's what everyone ships. No, I'm not here to talk about Jade and Kat. But I am going to weave a tapestry. Jade has this very important idea of herself where she has to be on all the time. Like, there is an episode where she and Beck, her boyfriend, break up. And who does she go to? The only person she feels like she doesn't have to put up a front around, because even when she's like, because I feel like here's the thing, people are always like, I ship Jade and Kat. Jade's like always mean to Kat. There's some stuff on the slap.com, which was like the supplementary website that is no longer up, and genuinely there are pieces from that are like actual lost media, but it was a lot more unscripted on the slap. So like Jade and Kat were a little bit more like actual friends, but in the show they were consistently pretty, like Jade was consistently pretty bad to Kat and pretty much held up her persona. But there's an episode where Jade and Beck break up in season 1, and she goes to Tori because she's like, you're the only person who like, I don't feel like I have to put a show on around. And her justification is that it's like, well, we're not friends and you're lame, so it doesn't matter what you think of me. But I'm also kind of like, okay, like that's your justification. But I think it's also very important to note that Tori is one of the only people that Jade drops this facade for. There is an episode later on where Tori is going to become this superstar. She gets signed to this record. It's like this record label. It's a whole big thing. And in the end, like through shenanigans, Jade almost like does hijinks and takes that role from her and like is going to go and perform on this big concert. And then in the end has this conversation with Tori where she's like, I think I'm like, this is bad. This is wrong. It shouldn't be me out there. It should be you. And like, I shouldn't be doing this, like, because, you know, I shouldn't do this to a friend or to you. Which she means obviously is like, well, we're not friends because Tori's lame, but like, girl, come on. Another thing I think of is that another evidence for Jory is that there is an episode where they have to be in a play where Tori is playing a man and Jade is playing like the wife, and Andre and Beck are their twin sons, which is really fucking funny. It's so good. But Psychowitz, their teacher, is like, you guys don't, like Jade and Tori, you guys don't have any chemistry because you're constantly like arguing. These two characters are supposed to be madly in love, so I'm giving you an assignment where you have to go on a date. So they go on a date together to like this restaurant, and they're having this conversation and they're trying to compliment each other, and Tori's like, well, you know, like I really appreciate that you like stand up for, you know, for what you think, and Jade's like, oh, right, well that didn't feel like authentic. And she's like, no, it is. And they're having this conversation, and then Jade's like, I guess some people could say from certain angles you're pretty. And Tori gets this look on her face and she goes, I think you're pretty too. And I'm just saying, come on, you have to watch this. There's a video that was posted by Nickelodeon that was like 6 minutes of Tori and Jade getting along, and girl, I was sad. They also sing one of the best songs from the show, which is Take a Hint, which is a duet with the two of them. I recommend you watch it. It is, I believe it is from that episode. Two boys try to hit on them and they keep being like, no, fuck off. And then they sing this saucy song being like, men suck and are disrespectful to women. Anyway, you need to take a hint and fuck off. And I'm just think they have girl power together. And I also think clearly Jade, okay, so I feel like I've also, sorry, I know I'm talking for so long. Jade is with Beck in the show, and I feel like I've completely neglected to talk about Beck. But the whole thing is that Jade has never once dropped her persona in front of Beck, and I think a lot of people look back on that relationship and was like, oh, well, they were so wholesome to each other. No, the fuck they weren't. They were like horrible and toxic. There's no way that they are actually lasting past high school. And when they break up for a while in the last season, it's actually like a really interesting way to see Jade like grow and become sort of like this version of herself that doesn't feel like she has to perform. But then they get back together and it's like, oh, well, she falls back into that. So I'm like, Jade was at her best when she wasn't with Beck. So I'm just saying, I think there's someone who she can be real in front of, and that's Tori. And I think it would also make Tori a better person and more interesting if she was also queer. Anyway, that's my manifesto.
Everybody knows who we ship Dean Winchester with. And that is the angel.
Yeah, Benny. Benny Lafayette, the vampire, who's played by Ty Olsson, yeah.
It is the angel of the Lord Castiel, who was supposed to be like a one-off character, and then people liked him so much that they kept him on the show. And he was literally just there to pull Dean out of hell, have a really gay scene, and then leave. And then he was then the main reason that the show continued, because whenever he wasn't on the show, the ratings would dip. So here's another thing that I want to bring up, especially about Dean's queer vibe. Insane people, crazy people who were crazy. Before Castiel showed up in season 4, the main ship for Dean was not him with any woman that he met, but his own brother. That was a thing. It still is for some people, because they're fucking crazy. People were shipping him with his own brother because they need to seek God and seek help. And it was really popular. And then another man came into the picture and they started shipping him with Castiel. And you're like, yes, this is also because there were barely any female characters who remain in the show, but many questions. So I just want to flag, yes, I do know what Wincest is. And it's fucking terrifying.
Girl, I don't think anyone thought you didn't know what Wincest is. Claudia had to prove it. She had to do the Wincest test.
I was doing a joke, okay? But Destiel, you all may know them from giving you the breaking news headlines from November 5th, 2020. But Destiel, it's been that girl and it will always be that girl, because if you take scenes out of context, you would go, oh, this looks more gay out of context. And then when you watch them in context, they're even gayer. It's not like, oh, in context, no, they're even gayer. And I'm not talking about just, right now I'm not going to talk about Dean as a gay person. I'm going to talk about them together. When you look up Destiel quotes, it's on the shipping wiki. It's not just the page for Destiel. There is a whole table of contents with quotes from every season. Now, their first biggest one is, I'm the one that gripped you tight and raised you from perdition. What the fuck? But then there's other things like, I was getting too close to humans in my charge, you. The thing is that Castiel is sent by angels to try and get Dean Winchester on board for this whole heaven versus hell plan situation. He's supposed to be the vessel for the angel Michael, and in doing so, Castiel realizes that maybe heaven's a little fucked up, and this is also when Supernatural is at its best in these seasons, when they actually had a coherent plot, and it's about like what is free will and what do we choose. And literally through meeting Dean in only a very few number of episodes, I cannot stress that enough, Castiel literally is like, wait a minute, maybe being an angel of the Lord for thousands of years, maybe I need to rebel. He literally meets this man once, and it makes him question everything. And there's so many things. There's so many things I could get into. I don't have time to talk about it today. But in season 5, he says, I'm hunted. I rebelled, and I did all of it for you. Excuse me? Or
Jesus Christ.
or
sometimes I forget.
Or
Jesus.
Or Cass, not for nothing, but the last time someone looked at me like that, I got laid. Why are we saying things like that? Why are we saying that? Now, obviously, we have Castiel tells him he loves him, whatever, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, they co-parent a child in the last season, too. There's that as well. You know, and here's the other thing. Other people refer to them as boyfriends, as a joke, all the time. Even in season 1. Castiel, oh, he's not here. You see, he has this
not season 1.
Well, I'm sorry. It's season 1 to me, because before that, who gives a fuck? Season 4, when Castiel comes, Castiel, oh, he's not here. You see, he has this weakness. He likes you. That's like the second time he ever... When I tell you, the scenes, the way that they speak to each other is literally insane.
I feel like you have to mention for Destiel the fact that, just one addendum, one of the last episodes of the show is Cass literally being like, I love you, and then going to hell immediately.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that is the scene that the news meme comes from, is him being like, you changed me and you taught me that humanity is worth loving. Anyway, I love you, and then he goes to super hell because of that. Anyways.
So here's the question then, y'all. Who do we think is winning that round?
Becca from Pitch Perfect. Next question.
Yeah, Becca.
The idea of, okay, you guys are fucking crazy if you don't vote for Destiel, but I think, Mel, who's your vote for?
Becca.
You can't. I don't think you can vote for yourself.
I can't vote for myself.
No, this is
a democracy.
The system is rigged if we can't vote for ourselves.
Then I am voting for Goro Akechi, because I feel like I feel as though, as much as Destiel has its place, and as much as Becca from Pitch Perfect has a place in young queer people's hearts, the way that Jess has described this relationship betwixt the main character and Goro Akechi, it seems as though it is kind of like integral, written into the story in like a deeply personal way, coming from the player of the game. So I'm just saying.
I actually would like to.
I'm voting for Goro Akechi.
I would actually like to change my answer. Not to Goro Akechi, but to Jade, because I thought about it for a second longer, and just the concept of the two of them being like, I think you're pretty, and the other one being like, me too. Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm gonna, in terms of shipping, because I kind of forgot that was like the premise of this question. In terms of shipping, Jade, you have my vote. You have my vote, Diva.
See, I think Becca still, because maybe it's just because they have like naked in a bath setting solidarity with Goro Akechi.
Who do we think? We all need to come together to decide collectively. Who do we think?
What about Claudia?
Who did Claudia say?
Cast her vote.
I will be voting for Becca from the Bard and Bellas, because that scene in the shower, I remember it's like seeing the movie and not really clocking it, and then like years later being like, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on in this movie? Like,
You didn't clock it?
Well,
See, I wasn't even like thinking I was queer yet when I saw this movie. I should have known, but like I was a silly little like not even a child. I was fucking fully 16 years old at this point, I think, when I watched this movie. And I was like, are these two? Are they?
So, the next question, and this is where we're really going to veer into the creative juices that we have. So, if we were to, say, like, rewrite this character or write a coming out scene or, like, a pivotal part for them to be queer, like, how would you do it? What would you say? What's your pitch to the executives, to the owners of this IP? Just short and sweet to the point. What's your elevator pitch?
Okay, so already I had mentioned like there's this whole thing near the end of the game with like this alternate kind of reality that they've been like trapped in that's supposed to be their more happier reality. And like I had said too, that Joker's included Akechi, which is why there's this Akechi that's debatable about whether he is fake or not. But there's this whole thing too when once they find out this is fake, they confront the person who has created this fake reality, their counselor person, and Akechi kind of tells like Joker like, hey, like I don't want to live in like a reality where someone is like dictating like how I should be like feeling kind of like deal. And Joker still is like, you have the option to kind of be like, but I want you to like be part of this, and I don't want like to like go against this reality because like that means like losing you also as a friend. Not in per se like those words, but that is kind of like the vibe. And I would probably write the coming out into there with like Akechi. Like he kind of like tells Joker like, don't get all sentimental on me, like it doesn't like matter what happens to me. But I think I would like put it there and like telling Joker like, yeah, I don't want this reality, but I also understand the sentiment too, considering also this isn't in the game, this is the creators later on coming in like interviews and saying like, oh yeah, technically Akechi's like favored reality also would have been getting to be friends with like Joker, which I was just like, okay, that's gay as fuck too. Considering in the bad ending of the game there is a picture of the two of them being happy and playing chess together and their legs are really close. Like, why are you two sitting that close to each other? But yeah.
So true. I'm always saying that. Yeah, so if I had to make Elias canonically queer, I suppose the way that I would do it is the way that he does everything, which is, okay, so at the end of the what's the penultimate season of the Magnus Archives? Why don't I know this? Okay,
The fourth season.
so at the end of the fourth season, reality kind of goes through this fundamental shift because John, as I mentioned, gets tortured by homosexuals such to the point that he sort of ends up ending the world low-key. And a consequence of that is that he is now sort of the avatar of all knowledge all at once. And so if I had to have Elias's coming out scene, I essentially would just have John suddenly and terribly receive a psychic vision of that man getting boned the fuck down by Peter Lucas and be like, oh God. And I feel like he would sort of just like fall to his knees in terror. You know, in like any piece of media where a psychic is like in your brain, you're like, no, get out. Like that's how he's reacting to learning that Elias Bouchard is, one, canonically a homosexual, and two, canonically a very bossy bottom. So that's sort of how I would structure that. Personally, bonus points if that vision gets beamed into the brains of other people who are eye aligned. I'm sorry to the rest of you guys. It could happen. Who's to say?
And for all we know, it could have actually happened.
It's possible.
You
I
know?
mean, John is like really tortured. Do you think when he went to that fucked up house where he was like, "Oh my god, everything's fine. I'm with Mikhail Zalesa. My powers don't work." He was like, "Thank God I've gotten rid of this vision of Elias Bouchard getting boned."
I do like the idea of like one of the first nights in the safe house. John, like the end happens, right? And John's like freaking out, and Martin's like, "Oh my god, like, are you okay?" And he's like, "Elias is gay." And Martin's like, "Yeah, right. You're just now realizing
also
that?"
he's like,
Or,
anything else going on? Like, you're writhing in terror. Like, what's up?
Right. So here's the thing. I'm just so this is like my rewrite. This is like the Melvin cut, right, of Pitch Perfect 2012. So basically what happens is, you know, like those you know, like that TikTok trend that's going around where it's like editing my OC into this like universe. It's like me in Pitch Perfect. So they're like, it's the end of Pitch Perfect. The Acapella, whoa, the Barnum Bellas have their iconic like scene where they do "Don't You Forget About Me," fuck, why can't I remember, "Just the Way You Are," oh my god, "Price Tag," thank you, sorry, etc. Anyways, point is, that's all happening. Becca gets off the stage and goes and kisses Jesse, and then everything stops. It cuts over to me, my OC, Belvin. I punch that misogynist man who's one of the judges and kill him instantly. I decapitate him. And then I say "gay rights." And then it cuts back over to Becca, Jesse. And then what is that? Becca's turned around. She takes out her hand. And who takes it? Chloe. And they kiss. And they're in a polycule.
Wow.
Challengers.
Wow.
Credits.
Wait, Loki Pitch Perfect is
That-
like diet
oh.
challengers if you think about it.
No.
That's really good. I really like that. I like Bella. Oh my god, Becca. The fact that they made their main character have a B name and the name of the squad a B name, that's crazy. I like where your head
I do
is
also
at.
love the idea that you just teleport in and punch and murder someone instantly, and you're like, "I did it, guys. I saved lesbianism."
Yeah.
I'm just like Elias Bouchard for real.
So
I
true.
like that you named your OC like a B name also. Belvin.
Belvin, Bella's, Becca, all these B's. Anyway, so here's my pitch. I think, so the fun fact, here's a fun fact. Victorious never actually got a season finale, like a series finale. It just kind of ended. Because there was a bunch of stuff, a bunch of shenanigans I won't get into. So basically my pitch for how this should happen, because ideally I think it would have happened earlier in the show. I think it would have happened Jade and Beck break up, right? Jade starts growing as a person, realizing she doesn't have to put on this persona because a lot of it relates to like her relationship with her father. A lot of it relates to just thinking she has to be who she is all the time. The idea that her and Tori get this assignment to go on this date. They go on the date and then they just start like hanging out. And in the season, like, and they have this whole Tori gets famous arc. They do all this stuff. And they just start to realize, like, Tori realizes that she never really feels wanted. Her parents are off doing whatever. She's realized, like, I think I'm kind of an asshole, because she sees Jade growing and is like, I think I might be like part of the problem. And Jade's like, well, I don't know, because you're the one thing that's made me feel like a better person. And they have a moment where I feel like they have a friendly hug and then they back up and just kind of like look at each other. And it's like a knowing thing, almost like a Legend of Korra finale thing, where it's like, you know that they're together, but like they didn't put it on TV because it was like 2014. And everyone was homophobic then, and they still are. Anyway, so that happens. And I think that this season finale is like, shows them starting senior year, and it has all of the group paired off. And I think it's like, there's a scene where Beck is like, I'm really happy for you, Jade. You seem like super happy. And I'm like, sorry if I was ever holding you back, but I'm proud of you. And they hug, and then she holds hands with Tori and they walk off and the show ends.
The Makoification of Beck is crazy.
Can I just say too, I love how like I was like, okay, this you're gonna get a horrible psychic vision of your boss getting his brains railed out. Melvin was like, I teleport into this universe and punch and kill someone, and Ollie was like, let me walk you through the most like tender, emotionally consistent like series of scenes. You're like giving us directorial cues. You're like, camera pans left. Here's in the field of view.
I will say emotionally consistent is not something that Victoria's prides itself on in its writing, so I'm happy they finally let me in the writer's room.
So, for Dean Winchester, making him canonically gay, I don't actually have to look for that much inspiration, because it was in the Spanish dub already. All he had to do, listen, that scene where Castiel is like, you changed me, you taught me about humanity, you taught me about what love is, whatever. And Dean says, why does it sound like a goodbye? And Cass is like, it's because it is. I love you. And and then he just starts, and then in the Spanish dub, he says, yo a ti, Cass. He says, I love you back. And all he would have to do is say that he loved him back. And it would be even crazier because it would be after Castiel gets sucked into super hell. Because after that, in the episode, he, like, slumps down the floor, has a full breakdown. And that's, like, the third to last episode of the entire series. And you say to yourself, it was also possible because the last episode of the season got fucked by COVID. And that's why we got the rusty nail and whatever. But they could reunite in heaven, as many people have said. And they were supposed to have a conversation at a bar in heaven. And I'm just saying, in Dean's perfect heaven, Castiel would be there. You wouldn't have to do very much. You would not have to change very much. That's the thing. All he would have to do is say it back in the most heartbreaking way possible. That's it. You wouldn't have to change a goddamn other thing. And he already did it in Spanish. So.
I just think that in the like English version of the show, they should have just had him say it in Spanish anyway, like completely unexplained. Just like have him be like, yeah, okay.
You know what? That seems on par for Dean. Seems like some shit he would do.
I know this is unrelated, but I do like the idea that Dean has been completely fluent in Spanish this entire time. And he's like, oh, I just don't, it's not relevant to the story, so I don't really use it a lot.
See, I was going to suggest maybe he was doing like a Duolingo lesson in the middle.
It's unfortunately something more that Sam would do. Like, Sam secretly has been learning a language on Duolingo this whole time.
Sam is like, well, Dean, I've been learning Russian, so anyway. And he's like, well, okay, I didn't ask. So, wow, those were all such good answers. Who do we think is the winner of that round?
I liked yours, Ollie. I think Jade.
Aw,
I'm giving my vote to Jade.
I was gonna vote for Noah, and then Ollie's was really good, but I'm sticking with Elias Bouchard because I think it's hilarious.
I will say I'm really torn right now between Jade and Pitch Challengers, but because I'm just Perfect Pitch or Pitch Perfect is also like you could flip it around and be like Perfect Pitch, which is an alternative name for a tennis movie, but that's just me. Anyway, I personally, this is so hard. I really want to do the reality where Belvin swoops in and murders a man in order to create a polycule. Like I just sort of I really support that.
His name is John Smith. Like this is like fighting colonization.
This
like
is fighting the power.
Yeah.
However, tragically, I was kind of moved by the victorious alternative ending. And so, like, I have to go with that one.
I'm going to go with Elias Bouchard. Death by psychic damage via Elias Bouchard bottoming.
It sucks because I feel like the most realistic of these is Destiel, and maybe it's just because I have such baggage associated with Destiel that I'm like, it would have been so easy, and it makes me angry that they didn't do it to this day. But I also feel like Jess made a very compelling argument, and I'm also such a sucker for being like, I don't want to live in a world without you in it kind of situations. And I think that Destiel, that ending that Claudia has suggested, kind of plays on that. But I think the idea of it being like outright said and being like, I can't like lose you, Not just because we're good friends, even though we are good friends, but also because I want to make boy love to you. Yes. So I'm voting for Goro Akechi. So who's the victor?
Between Jade
It's tied between Jade and Elias.
Okay, now this has to be answered. Who would win in a butter sock fight?
First of all, Buttersock is an iCarly bit, and that is something that Sam Puckett does. And I believe there was this discourse on Twitter a while ago that was like, who would win in a fight, Jade or Sam? And I'm like, well, obviously Sam, because Jade might act all tough, but I really don't think that Jade has it in her to like physically fight. So I do fear that Elias, who has killed someone with his hands, would win. That being said, who's gayer? Who's gayer, a teenage girl or a rotting washed up queen?
If you've seen any John Waters movies, you know the answer to this question, and it is a rotting washed up queen. Like,
Yeah.
I will say I do kind of like the idea of Elias Bouchard murdering Jürgen Leitner with a sock full of butter. Like, I just love that being the murder weapon. Not to like vote for myself or whatever, but peace and love. Elias is he's that diva's gonna kill you.
Yeah, and I also think that Elias is just like, I feel like Elias is textually gayer. I feel like that is also kind of the key. So I will give that point to Elias. I'm just gonna tally that up. We might have a tie. Okay, so the next question on the agenda, I think that this has to be another very brief moment, is like, if this character ended up being queer, what would that impact be? Like, what would have changed? What would the cultural implications of that be?
Well, for mine, this is a game coming from Japan, which hasn't always been that supportive of LGBT. R.I.P. Yuri on Ice. I'll never forgive you, Mappa. And historically, the game company that produces Persona, my enemy Atlas, my frenemy Atlas, hasn't always also been the best with queer representation. So that would be pretty big, considering the last time they had any canonical queer character in the Persona game that wasn't a fucking joke was like in Persona 2, which doesn't get talked about either because they like to pretend Persona 1 and Persona 2 don't exist. I think anime and video game fans would fucking lose their minds if one of the more popular Persona video games got a canonical gay character. And I think Persona 5 did like win Game of the year it did come out originally. I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. That was like 2016, 2017, a century ago.
The Dark Ages. That would be T. I would say, so I'm tempted to be like, cultural impact of canonically queer Elias Bouchard, 0, none, not even a little bit. However, I will argue that it matters to a certain subset of people who were online when the Magnus Archives was coming out, which was not me.
He's talking about me, guys.
I don't know. I listened to this show, like, I think 2 years after it finished. And so I was never really embroiled in any discussions about it. And I think it finished in 2021. I could be wrong, though. That sounds a little late.
It was 2020.
Okay, yeah. So it was 2 years after it finished that I started listening to it. So I don't have any horses in that race, but I will say, going back through old posts about the Magnus Archives, which is sort of like an archaeological assignment for me, reveals that there would be many an internet denizen who would likely find it a little bit interesting if Elias Bouchard were to be canonized as the world's worst homosexual man. So I'm going to say, it doesn't have a lot of impact, but in the communities where it would have impact, it would be a lot, if that makes any sense. Like,
here's the funny thing. If you were in the Magnus Archives fandom, and I'm not going to explain this, you have thoughts about Peter Lucas, a big man who is a big boy man. If you know, then you know what I'm talking about. You know the impact that would have had. Not to, like, argue against myself. Just, I feel like Noah's appealing directly to me.
Besides the fact that, once again, this historical relic, Pitch Perfect 2012, came out in 2012, pre, like, the legalization of gay marriage here in the States, this movie is pretty gay, all things considered. Like, one of the characters, she's not a main character, is gay, and I do think to some degree it is played up for jokes, but, like, we can't get into the nitty gritty. That being said, I think the canonization of Becca as a queer character, and, like, I'm not even asking for, Chloe and Becca to be together, but, like, to at least acknowledge that Becca's got some gay vibes and so does Chloe, I think is important. And also I think it would just be really important for bisexual representation to have a character who's not necessarily perceived as, especially in the 2012, that era, as, like, like this greedy, promiscuous person. No, just, like, a normal person who, like, enjoys the company of people of like, different genders. So there's that. Also followed by, I feel like Pitch Perfect, I was thinking it as I watched the film today, it's one of those movies that I feel like, 10, 15 years from now, is going to still, like, stand the test of time as, like a comedy film. Like, I was like, this is a movie, like, I'd love to show my kids one day, in the same way that my mom showed me, like, The Breakfast Club when I was, like, like, around the age Pitch Perfect came out. I think I actually watched that film because of Pitch Perfect, neither here nor there. But I feel like that's, having a film like that show how queerness existed in the 2010s is important culturally. So, yeah.
I totally agree, and I'm actually going to steal a lot of your answer for mine, except for the fact that Victorious ended in 2013. So I think that is also an important thing to consider contextually, is that it ended actually in, like, February, so it was very, like, early in the year. So in my proposed queerness coming out moment, which would have been, like, the end of 2012, it was very much before gay marriage was legalized in the United States. And it was like this would be a piece of media aimed toward, like, that would, I think, really show how it's, like, bisexual people and, like, queer people just exist, and they are part of the story, and they are normal, fully rounded main characters. They can be main characters. But the other thing too is that because this would be an appeal to, like, younger audiences, this is appealing to tweens, this is appealing to, like, early teenagers, to show, like, hey, these cool characters in this main, like, this main character in this show, she has a lot of gay vibes, and it's very, like, that's okay. Like, it's cool, and it's great, and it's fun, and this is a fully rounded person. And also, I think the effect it would have had, because there's that is, like, the cultural effect, but also on the shippers, because for those of you who don't know, Nickelodeon ship wars are fucking crazy, because it's so charged because so many people were so young when, like, the core demographic is young, and teenagers online are some of the most vicious beings ever. And, like, people were fighting, and Nickelodeon loved to do this thing, especially with iCarly, where it would try to, like, goad shippers on and then never really confirm anything. And Victorious, kind of, one of the things that they wanted to do was, like, stay as far away from shipping drama as they could, because, like, you had Jade and Beck who were together, like, the entire show, and maybe they had some off time, but you never had any question of, like, who any of them were gonna meet up with. But I think that it would have thrown that fandom into an absolute fucking tizzy. It would have been fucking crazy. Just that many young people all having opinions. It would have been scary.
Speaking of throwing a fandom into a tizzy, if you made Dean Winchester actually reciprocate, you were all there on November 5th, 2020. And for our listeners who were not, it was like Armageddon online for a lot of people. It was something like you've never, the likes of which you have never seen before. The rush I had, the adrenaline rush I had, even for a show I objectively think that show is bad. Something came over me, and in the moment I was like, wow, this is kind of important. They actually made this a thing. This is real. And then they refused to have Dean reciprocate. If they had Dean reciprocate, because the conclusion of that was, wow, they did that in the most homophobic way possible. If they had him reciprocate, then it would have been, well, it's homophobic, but it's also tragic yaoi, which they have been tragic yaoi the whole time. Then of course you had him die in the dumbest way possible, but it wouldn't have mattered. And from a sincere point of view, there's also the thing that like Dean goes through a pretty big arc of accepting himself and accepting a lot of things about himself emotionally that really would tie well with accepting his sexuality. And he kind of already did. Like, he had already gone through an arc. Like, by the later seasons, he is a very different person. It would have done well for his character, because there was a big issue with the last episode also that it assassinated his character also. So like there would be that for fans, whatever. But from a bigger perspective also, it would be like he is the macho main character of a pretty popular procedural that was both popular when it aired and also popular on Netflix. I found out from our TikTok comments on the Mysteries podcast that a lot of straight men watch it, so they might have gone bonkers, but it would have been a really big deal culturally. That would be like saying Batman is gay.
I like the idea of the conflation of Dean Winchester and Batman as equal cultural icons.
I mean, okay, maybe not equal. Maybe I'm not saying equal to, but of the same sort of flavor, if that makes sense, and that kind of thing.
I was really following you up until you were like, in a lot of ways, this is sort of like if Batman was gay.
Okay, it's not exactly the same, but it would have.
I think I know what you're saying, Claudia. Also, followed by, I have an important question. I don't know if you saw it in the chat. Do you think if Destiel got canonized, January 6th wouldn't have happened? That could have de-radicalized certain friends of a certain letter in the alphabet?
I'm gonna say something insane. I think it would have been worse. Because I do think that, like, the straight men online who do really like Dean Winchester, of which there are many, they would have been like, see, the woke agenda has taken everything from us, and there would have been more people at January 6th. That is both, that's /J, it's half /J.
I mean, there has to be at least be someone who stormed the Capitol who was a fan of Supernatural and got really mad when that happened. I also think, do we think that if Destiel had become canon, that the boys fans would be calling Jensen Ackles an alpha male on Twitter like they are now?
Not.
I haven't even gotten to Dean Winchester's cultural importance in the fact that he is the reason we have the Omegaverse. Like, yes,
that's true. The fact that you didn't mention that in your pitch is crazy.
We were talking about the cultural importance of the character, or whatever. But I will say, and the cultural importance of making him queer, whatever. Yes, the Omegaverse comes from a concept from Star Trek, and then the first recorded fic we have is actually RPF of Jared and Jensen, and then it was popularized by Teen Wolf. Obviously, it was then popularized into All Things, whatever. But like, the reason we have that is because of the original Omega Dean Winchester, and like
no, not the original Omega Jensen Ackles.
Well, the original Omega Jensen Ackles.
Yeah, jot that down.
If they made him actually gay, it would change lives. Is what I'm saying.
So let's wrap it around. I'm not gonna lie. I think that Destiel or Dean Winchester has to win this, right? Because like, I remember where I was on November 5th, 2020, and I don't think I've ever felt an emotion like I did on that day, and I haven't felt it since. Like, it was crazy.
So I actually also have to cast my vote in favor of Dean Winchester this round because a little known fact about me is that when I was in middle school, I hung out with almost entirely girls. I know this will shock all of you. And those girls were real into like shipping as a concept. And so as a natural consequence, they were also really into a little thing, you might not have heard of it, called Super Hulock. And that was not a space that I knew about, but I got introduced to it. Now, mind you, I didn't talk to these people for like a long time after like 7th grade. We were just not close friends. I got text messages when Cass was like, I'm in love with you, from people who I had not spoken to in literal years, being like, did you see that this happened? Like a group chat that was entirely comprised of my middle school friend group that had been inactive since like, oh my God, I think it was like a 7th grade boy turned back on because of that moment. So if he'd been like canonized as queer, I think I would have gotten like letters. I think I would have gotten like work emails. So I have to go with that because like it would have been crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I also casting my vote for fucking Dean Winchester because I can acknowledge the cultural impact that would have had because I also remember Tumblr November 5th. 2016, where I was just like, oh god, the Supernatural fans are crazy.
I know you said 2016. It feels like that long ago, but it was 2020.
Oh. Sorry, my brain is getting fried already right now.
No, but you're correct. Also, since I can't vote for Destiel, I will vote for Goro Akechi, because I know what happened when Yuri on Ice happened, which was quite similar. The closest we have gotten culturally to November 5th, 2020 is Yuri on Ice, when those two motherfuckers kissed. So if they actually made Goro Akechi gay, I know that it would be a very similar cultural response.
Robbie Damon would have supported. Robbie Damon supports Goro Akechi being gay right now. What am I saying?
Robbie Damon loves everybody being gay. Let's be real.
There's that
Hubert, Megumi, Goro Akechi. Come on.
There's the iconic like audio. I'm pretty sure people have heard it of fucking Robbie Damon. It's actually him like voicing something that someone asked him to, and being Goro Akechi and saying like, "Hello LGBTQ plus community."
I hate to be the contrarian. I'm gonna vote for Jade. I just think that children's media needs to have more gay people in it. We need to indoctrinate the youth, and that the cultural impact would have been perhaps not big in the way that November 6th, 5th. I'm sorry, I got January 6th and November 5th. The wires got crossed there. I feel like culturally, because of who we all are as people, as chronically online people, I feel like a lot of normies watched Victorious. And that, I think, not to say that normies have more value than the chronically online, but at least you could have a conversation with a normie and be like, oh, bisexuality, and they'd be like, aha, I know about that. I watched Victorious.
I mean, here I am once again, feeling lost every now and then. Anyway, okay, so that one goes to Dean Winchester. Congratulations, Dean. So now we've got some kind of silly questions. This is just sort of almost a speed round. So for those of you who are chronically online like us, you may have seen there was some discourse about a girl who is bisexual who brought her straight boyfriend to a Chapel Roan concert. Chapel Roan, who is a lesbian singer-songwriter, pop star, rising star. But the discourse is, so the question I have is, does this character, first of all, understand anything of this question? And do they think it is okay for a bi girl to bring her straight boyfriend to a Chapel Roan concert?
Okay, so unfortunately, I do think that Goro Akechi is a homophobic gay person. Canonically, well, when you first meet Goro Akechi, he puts on a persona of like, teehee, I'm just a silly little guy, haha, because he wants everyone to like him. But by the end of the game, he's like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Fuck all you people. So I do think, well, if you're asking Goro Akechi in the beginning of Persona 5, where he's still putting up this front of like, I am Detective Prince, famous boy, teehee, he'd be like, of course it's okay for a bi girl to bring her straight boyfriend to a Chapel Roan concert. But if you ask Goro Akechi in the third semester of the game, where he is tired and jaded and wants the world to fucking burn, he'd probably be like, no. Fuck that person. Do not bring your straight boyfriend or girlfriend or anything to a Chapel Roan concert.
Elias Bouchard loves really nothing more than inciting conflict and problems, and loves discourse. And so I do think that here's how I see this playing out. He will go to the bi girls and he'll be like, I think it's totally fine that you bring your straight boyfriend to Chapel Roan. I mean, like, he's with you, you know, like, it's fine. And then he's going to go to gay men and be like, I just can't believe she would do that. It's like a complete violation of queer spaces, which a Chapel Roan concert obviously is. It's like, what's next, Boy Genius? I don't get it. Like, however, I think in his heart of hearts, he basically, like, I don't think that he cares. I think he's like, whatever. She can be at the Chapel Roan. He can be at the Chapel Roan concert. I don't give a fuck. I just think that he's picking in the moment whatever is funniest to cause someone like intellectual pain. But I do think in his heart of hearts, he's like, why is this an issue? I don't really give a fuck.
Well, who do you think is bringing her straight boyfriend to a Chapel Roan concert? Becca from Pitch Perfect. This question is about her.
So here's the thing. I feel like Jade is very similar, but I feel like when Jade was with Beck, she was the bi girl who I don't think knew she was bi, but I think it's tough because I kind of feel like Jade knew she was bi, but just hadn't like really dealt with it, hadn't dated a girl. But I do feel like she was the bi girl who was bringing her boyfriend to it and being like, people would walk up and be like, oh, is your boy? No one would walk up because it's real life, but someone on Twitter would be like, you brought your straight boyfriend, and she would be like, fuck off, like, kill yourself. But then I feel like she breaks in my world when she's not with Beck. I think that she just is like, I think realistically she's like, I think it's fine, but she is putting up like a front of being like, no, I don't think straight people should exist at all, point blank, period. Because I think the other thing I'm neglecting this about Beck, I do think he's also bisexual. So I feel like it's kind of like, okay, I actually am going to change my answer. I think she thinks that no straight people should be allowed in public places.
I just like the idea of someone being like, well, you brought your straight boyfriend. He goes, straight? Like, he's like a...
And she goes, boyfriend? They use they, them pronouns. Anyway, Ava Jogia, who plays Beck, does use he, they pronouns.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So here's the first thing. Dean Winchester first would say that he doesn't know who Chapel Roan is. He does know who it is, but he hides the fact that he knows who Chapel Roan is. And he's not the one who's terminally online. Sam is. So at first he would not really understand the question. Second of all, he would probably make an offensive comment about it. I feel like he is a gay man who is misogynist. So he would make a joke either way that was insulting to someone, and that's just who he is. And then somebody would have to be like, girl, you can't. Sam probably would have to be like, girl, you can't say that. I know in all the fan fictions they want to have him queening out, but unfortunately he's just not. But in reality, I know that he knows who Chapel Roan is because Charlie introduced it to him. He knows the entire Hot to Go dance. And it would be revealed in the funniest yet most homophobic episode of Supernatural.
I'm almost picturing, you know, that scene at the end of the episode Yellow Fever
Yes.
of Supernatural, where there's a scene where Jensen Ackles is performing, he does perform a lip sync rendition of Eye of the Tiger.
Yes.
That was very iconic if you were on Tumblr. I do like the idea of him doing that, but with the Hot to Go dance.
Yeah, it would.
Dean Winchester alone in his car doing the Hot to Go dance, thinking he's alone, but Cass is secretly like appeared in the back seat and is like, oh,
Wait, he's like crying and singing Kaleidoscope to himself in the car, and then Cass just pops in the back. I'm just saying. I know he listens to Mitski when he's sad, and he does not admit that. But so the answer to this question is he doesn't know, but he will be misogynistic about it.
I love that. Who do we think this round goes to, guys? This is tough because I kind of like Elias because I kind of like the idea of just being on whoever's side is like just whatever side is the messiest is so good.
I don't know. I feel like and not to like vote for myself, but I feel like the reason I like my answer for this is because it's just like a stupid discourse, and I could just see him having like multiple Twitter accounts to go and like say like one way or the other. But like I mean, it's a complete violation of like what our elders fought for. If you bring your straight boyfriend to the Chapel Roan concert,
yeah, I'm going with Elias.
I agree, Elias.
Yeah, Noah's answered right then, like adding even more context. I'm giving it to Elias.
Oh, I love that. Elias Bouchard, Elias sweep.
hashtag Elias sweep.
This is another one that I think is really funny. Do they think that kink belongs at Pride? What is the conversation there? Just his face was just like, Jesus Christ, I hate you guys.
Oh, I don't think Goro Akechi would. But then again, this motherfucker, if you see his outfit for like later on in the game too, his stupid little black mask outfit has a lot of fucking straps on it, so debatable. I think he would be like, kink doesn't belong at Pride, but then like, yeah, secretly just like, actually, kink can be at Pride. Yeah, if he had a private Twitter too, he'd be talking about kink at Pride. But his public persona would be like, no, we have to protect the children and everything.
Oh my god.
Homophobic Goro Akechi?
That does feel right for what I know of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna put Elias Bouchard in the anti-King at Pride camp, not because he actually thinks that's true, but because again, he likes to fuck with people and their lives. And I also just think like, I know that in private he doesn't give a fuck because that bitch has some fucked up desires. All right, I know that he has the leather stuff from 50 Shades of Grey is like baby steps for that gentleman. He has issues, but I do think he's like going around the office being like, so I saw your tweet about how you think it's okay for men to wear harnesses in public, Timothy Stoker. I'm not sure. I agree with you on that. Like, he just wants to sow discourse.
You've also just introduced an idea into my brain, which is that Tim, after realizing that he cannot quit wearing that kind of shit to work, he's like, what are you going to do?
I love
Fire me?
Tim comes in like full leather gear.
He says a puppy mask.
Quick, who in the Magnus Institute is most into pup play? Don't answer that question.
Tim Stoker. What the- Oh wait, also Simon Fairchild.
Wait. And Peter Lucas is probably into bondage because he can be left alone. Anyway, I would, yeah.
Why was I like Peter Lucas would get like Gerald's game?
Wait.
That is like
That's an ideal scenario.
No, that is a lie. He is like waiting for someone to get Gerald's game so he can come and feed off their loneliness.
Do you think no? Because do you guys? He was definitely watching. Okay, so Gerald's Game is a Stephen King horror book and movie where a woman tries to do like a BDSM scene with her husband, but he has a heart attack and dies, and she's like stuck in handcuffs. Anyway, do you guys think he was watching that and like people in the theater were like, "Ooh, this is like spooky," and he was like, "Oh my god." He was like, ooh, like she's all by herself.
He's like, Elias, do you want to watch a romantic movie with me?
I can't with this. I can't.
I feel
we
like
have to move on. We have to move on. Which is to say that I think Becca, besides the fact that she's a cool alt grungy girl in 2012, and I don't know if her brain could even handle the discourse bullshit happening on Twitter today, I think she'd be cool with it because she minds her damn business.
I respect that. I respect that Becca's like, I'm gonna stay in my lane. I'm so sorry, guys.
Also,
even though like she's not.
Chloe's a freak. Chloe's a freak. Anyways.
I will say Jade is a high school student. So part of me thinks that she would have a very juvenile understanding of this, but I'm going to talk from the perspective of Jade, who is now post-series as an adult, right? So I'm gonna age her up. I feel like she thinks there should only be kink at Pride. Because something about Jade is that she loves things that are dark and like twisted and fucked up. Like, again, one of the best Christmas presents she ever got was a pair of scissors from a horror movie. So I really do feel like she is like the freakier the better. And not that she's even like personally like into whatever, but just that she's like, I like this because it's like deviant and like fucked up and people don't like it. And I think that's fun. And I want to see people upset. And I like that it causes problems.
Does Dean Winchester think that kink belongs at Pride? First of all, the thing about Dean Winchester is that he says that he is a very sexual being, but he's really not. He's really not. He talks a big game, but he doesn't. I think he's very vanilla as a person. But personally, does he think that kink belongs at Pride? I think it would depend at what point of his development. I think that he thinks that Pride, like, is kink. Like, I think he thinks that it is a kink Pride parade. I don't think he really gets what Pride is. So I think he would be like, well, why wouldn't it be? Isn't that what y'all are doing? I know that he's seen a Pride parade in his life and made a homophobic comment. Would that change if he realized he was gay later? I don't know. I think he's stupid enough to think that he thinks that is what Pride is. And you know what? Maybe it is what Pride's about. Maybe he's not wrong. Much to think about.
So true.
My answers to every one of these questions is yeah, he's a fucking idiot.
I do like your Jade answer. I feel is sort of like where I'm leaning vibe wise. I just like the idea of her being like, yeah, it's like fucked up. That's kind of where it like stops and starts.
And I know someone would say, I feel like Tori would be like, well, I don't know. I mean, sexual in public, that feels kind of gross. And Jade's like, oh, it's gross? It's gross? Interesting, Tori. I know your dad's a cop.
Yeah, real.
In LA. So I'm sure that you think any form of public gathering is gross.
I totally forgot that her dad is
You won me over with just that,
member
Ollie.
of the LAPD. Yeah, I'm voting for Jade.
And I think Tori's mom's also cheating on her dad. There's a whole subplot background story that's happening via recasting. It's crazy.
I'm voting for the Barden Bellas. I'm sorry. I think that it was objectively funny.
Okay, yeah, the Barden Bellas are going to Pride, and I feel like Fat Amy, or as she would be in the reboot, Midsize Amy, would be wearing like one of those harnesses, like, you know, like what Timothée Chalamet wore to like the Oscars a couple years ago. She'd be wearing that and slaying, eating it up. She's wearing
the outfit that Taylor Swift wore, where it was like a cheap leather harness and a fight song T-shirt.
Yes.
I do like the idea of the Barden Bellas at Pride, and I think that is winning me over to your side.
I think I'm voting for Dean Winchester because I think that's funny.
Okay, so in that case, we have a tie between Jade and Becca, which is like, I feel like they're just two girls who match each other's energy almost. So it's hard. What kind of someone assigned a random competition for them to be fighting at for us to have a tiebreaker.
It has to be a singing competition. I'm sorry, I have to put it out there. Like, who's the better singer, girls? Like, let's vote.
The Barden Bellas are winning that one. Sorry.
You're a fucking idiot, Claudia. I'm sorry. You did not listen to Elizabeth Gillies' Christmas jazz album with Seth MacFarlane to come in and tell me that
Mid-size Amy is clearing her.
that okay, well, the Barton Bellas might win because they're a whole group of people, but Jade is just one person, and I think her voice is beautiful.
Yeah, if it's between just Becca and Jade, I'd go with
Same.
Jade.
I'm just saying that Becca has Azalea Banks on her side. So jot that down.
Exactly.
I was on the 2-1-2.
Well, I guess that cunt getting eaten.
Okay, so I'm sorry, who are we giving
I think
this
Jade
to?
has
Jade.
3. So
Okay.
Jade has 3.
yeah, so Jade takes it.
So the next question, as is important for any queen, what is your character's dream role in a Broadway production?
This is so hard.
I know it's Aaron Burr in Hamilton for Goro Akechi.
No, I mean that's a good one. But I was actually thinking about Javert from Les Mis.
Holy shit!
Wait,
That's
Goro
crazy.
POV, Goro Akechi throws himself into the river.
Considering something that happened, why I said like Goro Akechi may or may not be dead. He did sacrifice himself technically, also kind of like killing himself, but also because there's this whole like other version of him like from his shit dad's like cognition, where it's just like, oh, I'm also Goro Akechi and I am gonna do whatever my fucked up evil dad says, and then he's just like, what if I just kill myself? No, that's not what happens.
What is Javert and Valjean if not the original Shuake?
Yeah, because it is like a whole thing of like this cop kind of chasing after this criminal and becoming obsessed with them in a way. And stars, there's this whole thing too where from the anime for Persona 5, they kind of is like the Shuake theme. There's a song from there called Our Stars, I think. And then Javert sings about stars and their multitude.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, that's my final answer, is Goro Akechi's dream role is actually Javert.
So true.
Not what I was expecting, but it's so good.
I did briefly mull over this. I had a couple sort of second best options, but I know in my heart of hearts what the answer is. Elias Bouchard's dream role in a Broadway musical is Roxy Hart from Chicago.
Oh my fucking god! Holy shit!
And let me just explain to you. So, as someone who had an unhealthy obsession with the Chicago musical as a child, I feel uniquely sort of positioned to answer this question. But I originally, when Elias watched any performance of Chicago, but specifically the 2002 filmed production starring Richard Gere, he was like, oh my god, like, I'm so Velma Kelly. I'm so like, oh my god, that's so crazy. But no, because upon rewatch, he sees when Roxy Hart comes into the opening number in All That Jazz, where she does a little belt, and he's like, oh my god, I have to be her. And so to this end, I contend that on more than one occasion, when Peter Lucas has just manifested into the Institute, Elias Bouchard is in his office doing the full, like, Roxy Hart number from the middle of the show, including picturing himself on a giant, like, marquee-style light board of his own name. I just feel like I'm right about this. I'm sorry to tell you. I was like, wait, he has to be Roxy Hart in that fucking flapper dress.
I'm obsessed with that.
Jesus Christ. So here's the thing I believe to be true about Becca. I feel like she is not a musical theater gay. I don't think that's really her vibe. I can't speak to Pitch Perfect 2 and 3. Never saw them. Nothing but respect for my Pitch Perfect 2012. So I think if anything, she's going to be involved with a project that's a little bit more low key. And when I say low key, I mean like it's just debuting on Broadway and it's not like a super big thing. I think she's Catherine Parr in 6 because she has that vibe. Because I feel like first of all, what are the Barton Bellas if not if not just a future touring cast of 6. Like a cruise ship touring
Wait, you
cast
kind
of
of
6.
cleared the.
Pitch Perfect walked so 6 could run. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I feel like just in a lot of ways, she is a survivor. She is Catherine Parr.
That's like, I feel like everyone has given like the most amazing answers. And I'd like to hope I can continue that. In the fact that I feel like the easy answer and what Jade tells people her dream role is Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, just because it's like, of course, obviously, that's like her vibe. But what I think like her dream role actually is Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. Ooh. Because I think she would fucking kill Somewhere That's Green. I would give so much money to see Elizabeth Gillies perform that, who plays Jade. I think that she could eat that song up, and I think that secretly Jade wants to do something that's a little more vulnerable and something that is a little bit more like, you know, that has a humor aspect but still has like some meat to it. And I think she saw Jinx Monsoon play her and was like, yeah, I want to do that. But I could totally see, yeah, my final answer. She tells people, she's like, yeah, Mrs. Lovett, because she's all like dark and fucked up, whatever. But she's actually like, but what if I got eaten by a plant? Anyway. Yeah, that's my answer.
My answer is easy because Dean Winchester has talked about what his favorite musical is in the show, and it is Fiddler on the Roof. I think he saw a high school or community theater production of Fiddler on the Roof or the movie on TV at some point, because he spent a lot of his childhood driving around and his father just fucking left him on his own. He saw that movie and I think he rewatched it. He has a hyperfixation with movies. He references them all the time. I think he is obsessed with Fiddler on the Roof, the musical. I think he would want to be Tevye so bad. Is he Jewish? No, but he has known every word. He has known every word that Tevye sings in that movie. He knows that movie by heart. He has wanted to be that the entire time. And if you asked him about it, he would say, oh, I don't like musicals. But then he would sit there and sing all the way through Fiddler. I think that's the only musical he allows you to play in the car other than his classic rock CDs. I think he has, we could get into, is Dean Winchester neurodivergent? And the answer is yes. He is obsessed with classic movies to the point of insanity. But I think he has wanted to play Tevye for a very, very long time.
Here's the problem. I think Noah's is the funniest just because that is so funny. But I also feel like Claudia's is the most like actually like canon accurate, because like she's right. Dean Winchester does talk about Fiddler. And he does talk about how much he he canonically is like, yeah, I really like Fiddler on the Roof. I think I gotta go with Dean Winchester. I hate to say. I don't think it's the most inspired answer, but I think it's the most canonical.
I will actually be casting my vote for Goro Akechi in his role as Javert in Les Mis. Mostly, like, I have like two reasons for that. One is just because, like, from what I know about the gentleman, it feels right. But also because if you gave me like 3 hours and were like, guess what character Jess is about to say, I would never have been like, yeah, Javert from Les Mis.
Well, I also think the concept of a Japanese teenager who works as a cop playing a French cop from the French Revolution is funny.
I agree. I am also voting for Goro Akechi.
Okay, well, I'm changing my vote now because now you guys made me embarrassed, so I'm also voting for Goro Akechi.
Speak your truth.
Goro Akechi Swede.
No, because I did get motivated to vote for Goro Akechi by everyone else's argument, so I'm like, wait, that's kind of true.
Well, mine doesn't matter, but because you all voted for Goro Akechi, which thank you. But I was gonna cast mine for Jade. Because
oh my God, thanks.
I like the idea of her secretly wanting to be Audrey.
I think it's time for our final question, and let me pose it. And I feel like this is a stand-in for like how well do they know like queer history and how involved are they like with the actual community. I think that's what the core of the question is. But what we have written down in the agenda is, do they think anyone died at Stonewall?
I have to say, the reason why this question was chosen is if you don't know, famously, there's an amazing clip of drag queens Derek Barry and William Belly sitting down for a round table, and basically they are discussing something, and the host goes, "What was Stonewall? Why didn't you tell everyone what that is?" And Derek Barry replies, "It was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed." To which, mid-sentence, William Belly replies, "Nobody was killed at Stone. Nobody was killed." And Derek turns to the camera. She goes, "Nobody was killed?" Like, she is genuinely bewildered and completely like uncertain as to what has just occurred before her. And so the question, was anyone killed at Stonewall, is spiritually inspired by that really beautiful event. If you don't know what we're talking about, I seriously encourage you to Google Derek Barry, "No one was killed at Stonewall," because the video is fucking incredible.
Okay, so Goro Akechi definitely would know that no one was killed at Stonewall because he, again, does have an actual job as a detective, despite being in his senior year of high school, and is canonically supposed to be very smart. So, yeah, I think he would know. I think he is not ignorant. Homophobic, though, maybe.
Canonically, Elias Bouchard knows for certain that no one died at Stonewall because it's one of his fucked up little powers. I would like to suggest that he is walking around the office being like, "But I wish someone did," because he is fucking awful. But I can't say that he wouldn't know this question. Unfortunately, one of his fucked up little abilities is that he does kind of low-key know almost everything. He has like a limited omniscience, and so he does know for certain that no one died at Stonewall. Elias Bouchard is sure.
So to add like an addendum or like almost like a what would it be called? A post-credit scene to my version of Pitch Perfect, the ending of Pitch Perfect. I think we go to, you know, the post-credit scene in Pitch Perfect where they are like at next year's basically like they're choosing what song all of the auditioning people are gonna have to sing. I think that we get a lower third with Becca's name, her pronouns, and then her major and minor. And I think her major is like audio production and her minor is in queer studies. So yeah, I think she knows that no one died at Stonewall.
So I think that Jade didn't really know, because again, like when we see her first, she's in high school. So I feel like a lot of high schoolers don't know what Stonewall is. You know, it's not like they usually teach that shit in history class. Not that I think they're taking any history class at that school.
Yeah, I don't think they are.
No, they're not. Quentin refused did a breakdown of like what classes they're actually taking, and it's fucking hilarious. But I think that Jade, I think she knows that no one dies at Stonewall. No, I think she's like, you would say like, "Oh, well, no one died at Stonewall," and she goes, "Yes, they did." And you'd say, no, Jade, they didn't. You can look it up. And she's like, "Well, they don't report everything." And I feel like she is acting like she has like insider information about like the secret covered up deaths that happened at Stonewall.
She's starting a
so
conspiracy
I feel like
theory.
I don't know if she might just know something, or she might be lying. We don't know to this day.
Keep girl boss.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you say, "Jade, no one died at Stonewall," she would say, "Oh, didn't they?" Right. That's exactly what you'd think.
Okay, so that exact conversation of, you know, the people who died at Stonewall, nobody died at Stonewall, that is an exact conversation that Dean and Sam have definitely had. Dean would say some fuck-ass shit like that, and Sam would be like, you know no one died at it, right? And Sam would be, and Dean would be like, "Well, we skipped around schools a lot, like, how was I supposed to know that?" And I know Sam would make some fuck-ass comment being like, "You're the gay person, you should know." I know that they've had that exact conversation. If it was written into the show, it would be written in the most homophobic way possible. That's just a fact. It's just a fact.
I do agree. I do think Sam Winchester took like a queer studies class when he was like in college.
Absolutely.
And I think Dean is like, oh, well, sorry that I didn't go to college. And he's like, well, I feel like I did learn this in college, but it's kind of like, not like a big secret to academia.
Dean's like, well, no, you're gonna have Castiel show up and be like, well, I was there and nobody died. You're incorrect, Dean. I did Castiel for the first break at Stonewall.
So who's taking that round?
I'm gonna give it to Jade. I'm gonna give it to Jade because I think it's a very in character response to be like, oh, I think that it did happen, and we just don't. You know, they're lying to us, and they're all like, who is they? And she's like, wouldn't you like to know?
Oh, see, I don't even think it's that she's like they're lying to us. I think it's like she's like, I have insider information.
I think that's
like they don't even know.
I think that's objectively funny.
Yeah, I'm going with Jade for this one.
She's like, the guy who lives in my house who I'm not related to told me.
Yeah, I'll give it to Jade.
I will say I do think I'm gonna give it to Becca just because I do think the idea of that scene that you have posited of it being her pronouns and her major is so fucking funny.
I'm giving it to Dean Winchester. I think in terms of accuracy to the question posited, like the original question posited, it's gotta go to Dean.
Jade got 2 votes though, so it goes to Jade.
Yeah, it goes to Jade.
All right. This is so exciting. We actually have a tie. Yeah, what is our idea for a tiebreaker? Because right now it is between 2 who have faced off already.
I think it should be which one would do the best in a lip sync for your life.
I think yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
So it is between Jade and Elias.
Okay.
And I think that canonically, one of them does go to a performing arts high school, and it's not Elias. But Elias has had a lot more time perfecting acting.
So I do have to pose a sort of addendum question to that in order to really properly give an answer. What song are they lip syncing for their life to?
Ooh.
Because I would like to posit Dancing on My Own would make an amazing song for the 2 of them to have to lip sync to.
Oh my god. I feel like this almost comes down to who has the better outfit. And I feel like, here's the thing. I feel like Jade made hers herself. And it's very like, almost like gothic. I feel like she almost has like, in my mind, she's doing this in almost like a Marie Antoinette sort of look. But it's all black. And I don't know. I feel like Elias bought his costume. I feel like
Elias does not sew. I feel like definitively if you put Elias on Drag Race, he would not sew a goddamn thing.
He made Martin make the outfit.
I'm just saying Elias Bouchard is very like Willem, where she's like, I bought this shoe from here and this one's Versace. Like, that's Elias. I love that gentleman. I want to win this competition. I want to take it to the end. But I will say that in terms of who is serving mega Huntress on a 9.9 motherological scale, it is not going to be Elias. He's a pointer sister. I'll say that. He's standing on stage and he's pointing back and forth between like him and RuPaul and like him and Jade. There's no motion. There's no emotion in the lyrics, which is hard because like that song, there's a lot to work with. He is stiff. He is flopping. Jade, tears. Performative tears, but tears.
Oh, absolutely. I think there is an episode of Victorious where they're doing stage fighting, and Jade does actually, like, Tori and Jade get paired off, and Tori's really scared because she knows Jade doesn't like her, and she's like, oh my god, Jade's gonna like beat the fuck out of me. So Tori goes to throw the first punch, and she's like, oh my god, because Jade like recoils and is bleeding, and is like, Tori just hit me. And then she comes to school with a black eye. Tori gets in trouble for hitting Jade. Turns out Jade was faking it the whole time. And
she's a stunt queen.
Jade was gaslighting everyone and being like, Tori hit me.
Yeah. I was just saying. I feel like it's tough.
This is unfair to Elias. First time, I think,
Claudia, you were the one who suggested this.
I think it's the words, this is unfair to Elias Bouchard has ever been said. Elias Bouchard losing something to a 15-year-old girl in a performing arts high school. Actually, you know what? you know what? If it had been a 15-year-old girl from a performing arts high school instead of Jonathan Sims, we wouldn't have these problems. But
literally.
So are we saying that so because this is the Olympics, we have to have gold, silver, and bronze. So what is our final point tally, and who is medaling?
So if we're giving it to, are we agreeing we're giving it to
Jade
me,
wins,
to Jade?
yeah, for the lip sync.
Oh my god. Thank you so much. Jade would be probably not honored. She would probably think that the idea of podcasts is stupid. So anyway, in third, we have a 3-way tie between Goro Akechi, Becca, and Dean Winchester.
Okay, wait. So I think we should answer the tiebreaker question for the rest of us.
Yeah, guys, who do we think of those three is going to do the best at a lip sync
well,
battle? And we have another.
Yeah, I'm not
unfortunately,
to be
it's
like,
fucking
well, canonical
Becca,
answer.
yeah.
I can tell you who would do the worst, and that's Dean Winchester.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
Wait.
Well, I'll let you make an argument, because I think here's the thing. I think he would be able to give a show, but I don't think it would be the right vibe. Like, it's not the right function for his type of showmanship.
It would depend on the song. But here's the thing, because he's done it. When he did Eye of the Tiger, he ate that shit up. And so if he chose the right song,
but that was also Jensen Ackles. That wasn't in character as Dean.
I need to say, for Goro Akechi, well, the dancing game isn't canonical. There is a Persona 5 dancing game, like rhythm game, and Goro Akechi does dance in that game and does serve cunt. So,
I think
he canonically has very interesting outfits as like DLC outfits. So I think Goro Akechi would slay after Becca. So
I would have to give it to Becca amongst the three of us.
Yeah. So for the bronze medal in these Gaylympics goes to Becca from Pitch Perfect. The silver. I feel like it's like you need to sing the national anthem from every country, and
God.
it's like, this time, baby, I'll be
bulletproof.
Oh, I think you did
my
that.
God.
I saw the sign.
No.
You know Becca hates that shit.
Yeah, she does.
Then the silver medal goes to Elias Bouchard from the Magnus Archives.
I do feel like Elias takes silver, and on his flight, he's on the podium on his phone on Amazon, googling lead pipe, how fast to get here.
And then I feel a little silly awarding myself, but gold goes to Jade West from Victorious. Like I said, I think she'd kind of think this was stupid, but congrats to her.
Can you sing the Victorious theme for us?
Here I am once again.
This thing take a hint.
Lost, but now and then. Yeah, that song unironically does slap.
It
I
does.
do have it on basically every playlist that
There
I
was
have.
a brief period of time too where it was like trending on TikTok, or at least the side of
Yeah.
TikTok that I was on.
Real.
Obsessed with Goro Akechi and Dean Winchester losing in a gay competition.
Can I just say real quickly too, Goro Akechi losing is really funny to me also, considering this man has also lost a bunch of character polls for the Persona fandom too, but has also won ones that have conflicted with those, making it some weird like paradox. Like, he won ugliest Persona character and then also prettiest Persona character within the same year of each other.
He is kind of like the way you talk about Goro Akechi is kind of like how I talk about Germa.
Thank you so much for joining us this week for RuPalps Pod Race and for sticking with us during this new era of the podcast. Keep an eye on your podcatcher of choice for new episodes every other week, or whenever we end up posting these, to be honest. As a quick reminder, we're trying to raise money for a family to escape Gaza. We're trying to get Mohammed's fundraiser for himself, his daughter Noor, and mother Alia to at least $10,000. And the link to their fundraiser is in our show notes. And if you want updates on the podcast, follow us on Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, and Twitter at RuPalps Race. And if you want to ask us a question, send it to our Tumblr Ask box or email us at RuPalpspodrace@gmail.com. And if you really love the show, please rate and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, and anywhere else you can leave a review. Also leave a comment on our YouTube channel and tell a friend about the podcast. It really helps. If you'd like to hear more of us, you can hear me as one of the cast members of the High Republic Tabletop RPG podcast for Light and Dice. And listen to the Mysteries podcast, where Claudia and Ollie recap all of Supernatural so that you'll never watch it. Links to both podcasts are in our show notes also. May the force be with you, and don't kriff it up.
Waka
Waka waka.
Waka waka.